be shipped across the country to reach consumers on the East Coast. So that's a lot of transportation mileage and associated emissions and fossil fuel usage. And then it also results in a lot of fresh produce having to be thrown away, goes to the landfill, releases methane gas, which we all know is a large contributor to climate change. So our form of farming, because we're able to grow in such close proximity to a large marketplace, we can cut down on a lot of distribution costs, trucking costs, associated emissions with that, and then sharply reduce food waste because the lettuce lasts a lot longer in a shopper's fridge. We also use 95% less water to grow a head of lettuce, and do so using a lot less land. So we're delighted to be in Maryland. We're delighted to have our products on supermarket shelves across the Mid-Atlantic, and we are honored with this recognition. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. You highlight one item that people kind of overlook is the control of all these systems, and that really can make a big difference in your energy usage, because you're not heating the whole place or cooling the whole place at one time, and you know when the heating or the cooling needs to come on and that kind of things, and it can be controlled in different areas. So that's one area that we work with a lot of companies on, and it's one area that a lot of people, it's not, if you're not in the field, you don't really realize that that's a very important part of it. So thank you for highlighting that, and your industry. It's an industry that not many of us realize is very active in Maryland. Agriculture is a large industry in Maryland, and hydroponics is part of that, and so really appreciate your comments. We are also joined today by John Fox, advisor for XCO. John, your company provides a product and service to help manufacturers realize cost savings and even improve comfort for employees in a manufacturing space. Will you tell us a little about the benefits a Maryland manufacturer experienced as a result of the work your company performed to help them be more energy efficient and save costs?
Yes, thanks, Dr. Tung, and thanks everybody. Thanks to RMI and MEA and all the sponsors. It's exciting to see so many faces and pages of the webinar, so that's surprising. It's great. Great work by RMI to make this happen. We're a little different. We haven't done any energy efficiency improvements ourselves, like the three panelists that just spoke. We actually enable, we have an enabling technology that people may be interested in as long as the fit is right. And the fit is, we focus on high ceiling facilities. And by, what I mean by that is obviously manufacturing facilities might have 20, 30-foot ceilings, even higher, warehouses and big box stores. So think of large volumes of space. We're not residential, we're not office buildings, something like that. Large volumes of space that use forced air heating to heat and cool the building. So rooftop units and high ceilings is where our technology fits in. The product is called the XCO Flow Controller, and it's basically designed to have better thermal management for that system and focusing on the occupied space. So you might have a 30-foot ceiling, but the occupants don't really care what's going on at 30 feet. They care what's going on from 0 to 6 feet or 0 to 8 feet. And also the equipment on the floor, the machinery may care about that too. So by focusing on a smaller volume of space and the way we manage the air, the supply and return of air, you can actually reduce your heating and ventilation costs significantly. So think of a large facility, rooftop units on top, and then we basically sit underneath the rooftop unit inside the building, and we divert air. Today it might be supplied 25, 30 feet in the air, return and supplier at the ceiling, the occupants are 30 feet away. We divert the air depending on the ambient condition in the building or in the demands of the building to maybe supply low or supply high or return low. So we actually can vary the ability of the system to be thermally managed right where the occupants are. And it easily integrates under commercial HVAC contractors can easily integrate our equipment under the rooftop inside the building and then supply some ductwork that allows for the flexibility of control that we provide. So in heating mode, we actually want to de-stratify the air. If you think of a 30-foot ceiling, obviously heat rises, and you know that there's accumulated air at that ceiling and there's going to be higher temperature than it is at the floor. Well, if you can move that air down, and you could use a big ass fan, which is a technology, but you can move that air down. That's a blending technology. Our technology actually moves it right to where the occupants are, so you use less energy doing that. If you move it to this occupied space, you're putting less BTUs into the building. And then in cooling mode, when cooling is happening 30 feet in the air, the buoyancy of the air is on your side this time, the cold air drops. But the problem again is your input to the RTU is the hottest temperature in the building, is the highest temperature in the building. So then you have to add more energy to the RTU to drive the temperatures down, and you're just consuming more kilowatts. So if you could supply the cold air at the occupant level and then stratify the air on purpose and let the top of the building get warmer, you're not putting in as much energy into the building. And then we also, because of the design of our system, we have passive mode where you actually just turn on the fans. And the fans are just basically removing the hot air off the ceiling and supply it right where the occupants are. So we did a building in, it was called Homatro. And it was done with RMI support. And University of Maryland did a study, and it's by BWI, 15-month study, 6-month pre and 9-month post, saved about $20,000 a year. And how it does the saving is, in a very satisfied customer, how it does the savings is the rooftop units don't run as hard, they don't run as often. You can change your set points, higher for cooling or lower for heating because of your focus on just the occupied space. You may have to supply 55-degree air at the ceiling at 30 feet to get the occupants at 70 degrees down below. If you supply that air right where the occupants are, you don't need 55-degree air, so obviously you're not using as much energy. And in Homatro, only 50% of the building was retrofitted, and we still saved 10% of the utility costs. So if we had retrofitted the full number of RTUs, we did 10 of 18. If we had retrofitted the full count, the savings would have been even higher than 10%. And that's 10% on the total facility cost, not just the HVAC cost. We're about 30% improvement in the HVAC cost annually. So the two, Alana and Cornelius, mentioned that they did LED lighting, and a lot of people have done LED lighting. Homatro, at the same time that they put in the flow controller, also did LED lighting. And the total sum of the savings, we were about 50%, and the LED lighting was about 50%. So to give you a scale for what our technology has the impact, if you're familiar with LED and you were happy with your return on investment and it was something to do, it's easily understood, it's prescriptive. Ours is gonna be a little more custom, but the impact can be the same level of impact such as LED. With that $20,000 savings, if you financed it and if you got an incentive, you could be under 2-year payback, potentially under 1 year. I mean, that's how significant the savings can be. And it depends on your utility rates, the size of your building and all that. And we'd be happy to evaluate a building. We also did a manufacturing facility that was struggling in Maryland summers. It couldn't keep set point. It was getting to 80 degrees on the shop floor. They're not only concerned about the employees' the employees' temperature, but they were also concerned about the parts because they were manufacturing Department of Defense tight tolerance parts. They were going to buy more RTUs, and they heard about the flow controller. They put 2 in of 6 RTUs, and in 5 hours the temperature dropped 4 degrees, and then the floor temperature dropped a degree, and the occupants were satisfied, the machines were satisfied, and instead of putting new tonnage in and a lot more capital expenditure, they actually did 5 of the 6 RTUs. So we're an enabling technology for those that are listening that have high ceiling facilities, that have or know of people that work in high ceiling facilities or service high ceiling facilities. We'd be happy to do an evaluation. There's a great 5-minute video on our website, and we'd be happy to help you through this and analyze your building, and hopefully it's something that fits in your facility. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate your comments from the installer's point of view. Someone who's going out working with folks and getting these energy efficiency projects into play. So really appreciate your viewpoint on this. It's a little different than those who are receiving your services. So that's really nice for us to hear from you as well. I think Stacy has a comment she'd like to make.
I just want to let people know, I understand there's an issue with the chat, and I'm not sure why. I tried to figure it out, but what I'm doing is making everyone a co-host, which seems to be opening up the chat. So I'm now going individually, making each of you a co-host. So for those of you who've had a question and haven't been able to submit it, you will be able to shortly as I'm making you each a co-host. Thanks. Just want to let people know that you can still put something in through the chat.
Thanks, Stacy. Yeah, I wasn't able to respond to you there when you asked about speaking. So I did see it. I just wasn't able to respond. So thank you for doing that. I have a couple general questions now to ask. Now that we've gotten everyone's background information, I did do a little bit more of a deep dive here than we've been doing. So the first question is for John Fox of EXCO and Elena Kessie of Aquafin. Elena and John, this question is for the two of you. And do you think that some of the energy efficiency changes and upgrades you have made your facility, or in your case, John, to Homatro's facility, are benefiting your company and employees during this time when COVID-19 greatly is impacting how we look at workplace health and safety? And I know, Elena, you had touched on that earlier, but you know, health and safety right now are very important, and how are these energy efficiency upgrades helping in that area? So I don't know who wants to take that first, but.
I can go ahead. So I definitely think they helped, you know, in addition to the benefits that I mentioned before, having the all new HVAC units and, you know, really increases air quality. And so all of the offices where the employees were still coming to work every day, they have better air quality. Out on the shop floor, having better lighting just made a huge difference. And so in addition to the air quality and the lighting, it was also, I really think one of the biggest impacts was just the morale boost, the fact that our company saw that, you know, we're still investing in the company during a time that is a difficult time, and that we're moving forward with projects. Things didn't grind to a halt, and we kept going as much as we could, business as usual. And so absolutely, this had a huge impact.
Mary, you got to unmute.
Wow, that's weird how I got on mute. So John, I'm sure you have a viewpoint on this as well.
Yeah, so first off, we all know that the answer to COVID is not one solution. Everybody should be, you know, masking up and social distance, washing your hands, trying not to gather, hopefully getting the vaccine in your arm as soon as you can. All the above, right? We all know that. And I'll do a disclaimer that I'm not Dr. Fauci, but I have tried to educate myself on this topic, and because we do have an impact, and a positive impact. And I've watched several webinars put on by ASHRAE, and it's interesting, right? So they say directionally correct, right? No one's going to know if your building is 100% safe. I mean, my analogy is your building's 100% safe if no one's sick in the building. No one's going to tell you if your building's 100% safe if someone's sick in the building. But there are things you can do and actions you can take to try to directionally correct, add indoor air, improve your indoor air quality for your employees. And you know, and that's a PR, it's marketing, it's making sure your employees feel safe. So ASHRAE will tell you, increase the MERV rating as high as you can on your filters, right? They will tell you to increase your makeup air as much as you can. Bring in more outside air. Now, obviously, depending on where you live and what season you're in, bringing in makeup air and increasing your outside air is going to cost more money. And your system may not be able to keep up. And if you increase your MERV filtration rating, your system's going to take more kilowatts. They say, you know, open the windows as best you can, get more outside air in, not just through the filtration system, not just through the RTUs, but through your own doors and windows. They say start your HVAC equipment early, before the occupants show up. Start your system, and after the occupants leave your system running. So, and then some actually do UV lighting or other new technologies. The thing about all those actions, which are the right things to do, all increase energy usage. Every one of them increases the amount that it's going to cost you to heat and cool your building. Now, obviously, employee safety is important. So, as I described, we tie into an HVAC system and could have a 30% impact on that HVAC system. Also, so we could offset the costs of makeup air and increase MERV filter ratings, et cetera. So we can offset the increased costs of actions towards indoor air quality improvements. But also, because we focus on the occupied space, right, where the people are, where people are breathing, we actually increase the air changes per hour. So we're directionally correct also. We're filtering more where the people are, not just the whole volume of space. If you think of that big, Walmart, if you're filtering air right where the people are, you're actually increasing the air changes per hour. The other thing we do is, because we can supply low in passive mode and cooling mode, we actually bring in the makeup air right where the people breathe. So instead of bringing the makeup air 30 feet in the air and having it blend into the entire building, we can actually bring in the makeup air in the two modes, cooling and passive mode, two modes of the three. We actually supply the air from, and if you're increasing your makeup air percentage, you're actually bringing more makeup air right to the breathing and the occupied zone where people are breathing. So with all those benefits, you could definitely increase the indoor air quality and then offset the cost of the energy usage, the increased energy usage, by implementing the flow controller at this, if your building is the right fit. So we definitely have an impact, and love to talk to people about that.
So I guess to follow up a little bit with both of you, do you think that COVID might be ushering in some changes in how we look at airflow through buildings? Even once the vaccine's out there, there's flu season, there's always these health issues, communicable diseases that are going to be floating around. Every year we get flu. So do you think that COVID has maybe changed how people look at this? And as we move forward, we might be seeing changes in how airflow handling is done, and particularly in light of energy efficiency efforts. So the question's for both of you.
I guess
so John, you're mic'd up, so
yeah, yeah. I mean, I hope, right? You hope that this is not a, in 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, this has gone away. I mean, the initial, when ASHRAE said, hey, increase your MERV rating to, I think it was 13 or higher, you couldn't find MERV filters, you couldn't buy them, right? So there was a shortage. So people reacted, and they reacted correctly. Is this a long-term thing? I hope people learn, and I hope we all learn, that indoor air quality, we always heard that your indoor air quality could be like five times worse than the outside air, but that doesn't mean we've ever done anything about it. So yes, and I think certain companies that are more aggressive and more focused on their employee satisfaction and their concern, and actually take it as a marketing, as an employee, benefit, that we do X, Y, and Z to increase the indoor air quality for our facilities, that people are going to offset themselves by doing that. But I'm sure, unfortunately, we're humans, and some will go right back to, and some don't even wear masks today. So some will go right back to being exactly who they are today. So I'm hopeful. I'm the optimist.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of that. Coming from a position of not being, a technical person in this industry and not really having thought about it prior to COVID, I do think that it's something that has made people more aware of it. And I think it's always something we're going to think about more. Whether I don't think it's going to be at the forefront of everyone's thoughts in the future when, we're kind of past this and we get back to it. But I do think it's going to be a lot of changes. And I think there is going to be residual information that people who weren't maybe focused on it prior to are going to focus on afterwards.
Thank you both for your thoughts.
Barry, this is Mike Galeazzo.
Yeah, hi, Mike.
To the group, to the conversation, because I think right on target with this topic of more safe environment, work environment. And Mike Kelleher is on the line. Mike and I and several other manufacturers across the state were asked to serve on a committee to help recommend to the governor actions that manufacturers should take to create a safer environment because of COVID. And I think it's important to let everybody know that when the governor came back with their recommendations to manufacturers, and a lot of it dealt more with the whole issue of the employees and, taking temperatures and all that. But one of the key recommendations was exactly the topic we're talking about, ventilation systems. So there was an as it came from ASHRAE. So there's a real recognition coming in that they're dealing with the whole issue of the quality of the air and the ventilation is significant, I think, in this fight against COVID, but perhaps equally important in keeping manufacturers open. And Eric Kaufman and others that you're on your team know that I feel very strongly that right now, that the safe work environments, by helping to update HVAC systems and ventilation systems and other systems that can help improve air quality, keep people safe, I think is really critically important. And we want to, and RMI is going to, as you may know, we're going to continue to get that message out through some webinars and things like that. But I think right now, that's what's on people's mind, how to keep our employees safe.
Absolutely. And I know the discussion came up in our own building, you know, before we started going back in small numbers, you know, is the ventilation system up to snuff, and bringing in that air quality that we needed, you know, the outside air and whatnot. We have an old building. We're located, many of you probably know, in the old Montgomery Ward's building in Baltimore. So it's kind of a leaky building anyway. So it wasn't an issue that much, but they did increase. But again, you know, point well taken. It does add costs to your energy usage to circulate the air and higher amounts. So building that into energy efficiency in the future, I think is something that's probably really well worth looking into, even when we get past COVID, because, you know, we lose a lot of employee hours, the flu and other things. So, you know, it's something I think everyone should be looking at.
Yeah.
So thank you, Mike.
Yeah, thanks,
Go
Mary. Well, the issue of cost, it could be really expensive if you're not able to operate your company because of COVID. So
absolutely.
In fact, I find myself and mothers, and I would, when I go anywhere nowadays, which I don't go to too many places, I always think in terms of what's the ventilation in this room that I'm in or in this building that I'm in. So the things that are being talked about, I think, are really critically important to all of us that are concerned about COVID.
Occupational hazard for those of us that work in the energy field. We're always looking at lighting and airflow and working with buildings. I find myself doing that as well. So I'm glad I'm not the only one. I thought I was a geek. Well, I am a geek, but anyway, thank you, Mike, for your comments.
You.
I have a second question. This one is directed at Cornelia Scrupp of Seacare and Viraj Puri of Gotham Greens. What would you say to manufacturers? And this is, this is something I'm really interested in your answers. What do you say to other manufacturers that say they are too busy or have other priorities? You know, we're making widgets, don't bug us with all this stuff. And don't think that energy efficiency and sustainability is something they should be focusing on right now. So I don't know who wants to take that question first. What do you say to other manufacturers?
Well, yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think if we look at the time we're living in at the moment, we have just come out of the hottest decade since the recording of temperature. We're about to have the hottest year, 2020, since the recording of temperature. And we've seen 2 continents burn this year. We've had more serious hurricanes or major hurricanes than ever before here in the US. And really, nobody can deny that the world and climate is changing. So I think it is our duty as business leaders, decision makers, to confront climate change and to commit to sustainability strategies for our families, for our communities, and for the next generations. So I think governments, companies, stakeholders, and shareholders have to engage, considering what we are being faced with, as climate change is the biggest challenge that we as a human kind have to tackle. So I think that is a start. Why, if anybody says they're too busy doing their day-to-day business, what build a business for if there is a very different tomorrow that your business might not even be able to compete in? Secondly, if that is not enough, the awareness has changed dramatically from end consumers to customers to the large OEMs in the world. We already see an aggressive shift of major investors. I mean, just think about BlackRock, how many investments or money streams that they have shifted to companies that are tackling climate change or that have at least a sustainability strategy. So the fight against climate change and have a sustainability strategy is part of the competitive advantage that we have to embrace, right? The end consumer is informed. The end consumer is educated in what sustainability means, at least at the product level. But we're seeing more and more down on the supply chain that the big corporations are enforcing their climate goals, their CO2 emission goals, their packaging development goals. So it's not even, at least in our field, it's not even an option not to participate. Then I also don't think that companies without purpose have the chance for long-term profitability. I think the times are over that companies can capitalize short-term at the expense of society and environment. So I think even from a long-term profitability goal, if you want to look at it, it's highly important to at least wrap your head around how you can positively contribute to your own sustainability strategy. Further, if all of that is not enough for you, I think the market will simply demand of companies to participate, and then eventually and hopefully soon governments will also demand that companies put a price, or that there's a price on externalities. And I think that if you don't get ready for this development in the market, you will simply be left behind. So if you don't get on the train, I think you're going to take the shorter end of the stick. So I think it's highly important that we all have a strategy in that direction. And as we've seen today, there's payback, right? There's payback on energy reduction. There's payback on efficiencies. There's so many aspects that if anybody tells me they're too lazy or don't care about this important topic of our society, then I find it hard for them not to find an argument why they shouldn't get on the train.
Raj, do you have? I'm sure you do have some comments as well.
Yeah, I certainly do. That's a hard act to follow, though, because I feel like he hit the nail on the head for every single point. It's around actually saving money. It might be a little bit of extra effort, but energy efficiency measures have a very positive return on investment in most cases of just a couple of years. And the marketplace is going to get more competitive regardless of the industry that you're in, and finding ways to reduce cost is I think, going to resonate with any business. And again, I don't want to just reiterate all the points that were just made, but customers and the end consumer, as well as a business customer, is going to start demanding this more and more. We see this all the time. We get questions from our end consumers about our sustainability profile, what we're doing to address climate change. Younger demographic of consumers are increasingly interested in this, and this is backed up by syndicated data, survey data, panel data. And then finally, I think the regulatory environment will start to require these sorts of things, and there will be a price on carbon in some way, shape, or form in the years to come. So in the interest of time, I won't just repeat everything that was just said. I think that was great.
No, thank you very much. Good comments. And I think you're right. People are looking at this. And as you mentioned, a lot of the younger folks that are coming in are really focused on it. And, just want to get in there that, it's kind of the money savings is real. And when you're adding to the bottom line, that helps. So it's a win-win. You're helping the environment, which is really important, and you're helping your bottom line. There's not too many cases where you get the win-wins like that. So I would like to turn it back to Tracy briefly. I think she has something she'd like to say.
Thanks. Talking about the energy program, and you're hearing thanks to RMI and things like that, I just want to make everyone aware that we are working with Maryland Energy Administration on a grant program that some of you that are listening today may be eligible to participate in. So if you're in the Pepco or Delmarva power area and want more information, please contact us, because our role in this, we are funded by the Maryland Energy Administration to be your basically be your personnel to help you identify ways that you can save energy. We can send our energy engineers in there at no cost to you to do an assessment of your facility and find ways where you may be able to take advantage of energy savings or get energy rebates and find ways to pay for the upgrades. As Elena mentioned, the cost of hers was pretty substantial, and we helped her identify funding sources, whether it was loans or rebates and other incentives. And we actually can do the legwork on filling out those applications and helping you read through the scope of work from vendors and help you understand what these vendors are going to do. And so anyway, we've got the team, we've got the expertise here that we can bring to the table for you at no cost to you. So I just want to encourage those of you that may not be familiar with this program. We'll send, when we send the email out, I'll put contact information for myself and Peter that you can reach out to us, and we're happy to talk further with you to see if it's something that your organization can take advantage of. The grant program ends June 30th, if I'm correct, June 30th of 2021. And I believe there's about $500,000 left to be used towards that. So there's money there, but it's a limited time frame. So just encourage you to get in touch with us.
And if I could just touch on that real quick, Stacy. Last year when I was at the program, I kind of walked out of there thinking, well, this all sounds too good to be true. And, you know, I'm sure there has to be strings attached and there has to be hidden things, and it really wasn't. I mean, RMI did all the legwork for us. It was 100% what Stacy just said, and if it wasn't for them, we would not have been able to take advantage of this, because we just simply don't have the resources in-house to do the engineering, to understand the grant process, and to, you know, take the time to walk through the facility and do the assessments. So what she said is 100% true, and if anybody is in the opportunity or in a position to do these kinds of things, I highly, highly recommend reaching out to RMI.
Thanks, Elena. Nandini, can you just say just hello, just so that we can see your face, because she's our energy engineer that we send in. And I think if she says something, her face should show up on here. Mm-hmm. Nandini, you're, I think, on mute. There she is. Oh, were you prepared? Sorry. I just wanted you all to put a face with a name. So Nandini is our energy engineer that we would send out to work with you and help you through the process. So just wanted to put a face with a name. That's all. Thanks.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
And she's also a star.
Oh my God. I don't know about that. I don't know about that, Peter, but it is an awesome team. And it was great working with Elena and everybody to make sure that we understand, and especially what Elena said related to some specific transformers is a very difficult energy efficiency measure to go through and make sure, but we got quite a bit out of that particular measure and so on. So the opportunities come in different flavors, different facilities, different type of age and operations and whatnot. And so I think we have the bandwidth to go through whatever is your need and help you out in different ways. So do check us out, and would be happy to work with you whenever you are able to get in touch with us. Thank you.
Thank you. And she's also an alumnus of MEA, so, and a woman in energy. I want to keep emphasizing that. Ladies do engineering and energy stuff too. So we're at the point where we can take some questions from the audience. I'm trying to look through the list here. To make sure I get everybody.
Mary, I think the only one that hasn't been answered is the one that says, how can more manufacturers get engaged in energy efficiency projects?
Yeah, that's the one I was seeing. Yeah. So anyone can answer that. I'll just start a little bit on this. You know, folks look at these projects and immediately the price tag comes out. And that's one thing. There's a price tag issue, there's also a time issue. We don't have time. We're doing this, we're doing that. We're trying to run our company. So there's these two issues, and it's very difficult sometimes to convince folks that this is worth it. So the upfront cost is one that we try to help with. RMI is trying to help you. And also, where do you start? What do you do? I make widgets. I do skincare products. I do, hydroponics. I make whatever. And, so where do I start? I'm not an energy expert. I don't have any energy experts, and I can't afford to hire somebody. So this is where we can come in and then help. This is where RMI can help. This is where our team of experts can help. You've heard a lot about MEA's team of experts, and we have engineers and scientists on staff, and this is what they do. And we also have contractors who can provide some expertise as well. And so when we work with you, it isn't just let's give you a grant or a loan and go off and do your thing. We help support you, and RMI is a very important component of that for those projects that we're working with RMI on, and they've done an awesome job. And I will tell you that it's hard for a state agency to approach manufacturers. You don't understand us. You're a bunch of state employees. You don't know what we do. And we are state employees, and we probably don't know what you do, but it's hard for us to approach manufacturers. So this is where RMI has been very helpful for us, because they were able to come in and you all speak the same language, and you have a trust built up with RMI. So we really enjoy working with RMI, and they have provided for us a very good service in getting folks involved in this. So, for us to try to convince you that this is important to do, we have to have that open door, open line of communications to begin with. So the RMI is a really, really good resource for those of you that aren't familiar. You're on this call, so obviously you're somewhat familiar with RMI. But we have a team of experts that are able to help as well. So I just wanted to open it up for our panelists if anybody has any comments as well. Yeah, anyone? I know you're out there.
Yeah, I guess I'll just say, like everybody's the same thing. It's hard to implement. It does take time, and I think the priorities you said, people want to put their heads down and make the cosmetics or the Aquafin products or the leafy greens in Maryland, which is really cool. But Ilana said it earlier, the $20,000 she was saving a year goes right to her bottom line. You never spend that $20,000. So it's and with the support of RMI, there shouldn't be a reason to at least have to reach out and do the investigations.
Yeah, if I can add, I wasn't the CEO here when we were implementing the program in 2015 and 2016, but what the team has told me that we are a mid-sized company here, and even today we would not have the capacity in terms of people to actually execute that just by ourselves. So it was a huge help that we received, exactly as we just heard, in terms of engineering, in terms of helping plan out, and helping also to apply for these grants, right? If you're not used to applying for grants, how do you start? Where do you start? So we really had a tremendous amount of help, and I can only recommend to try also to get the support, because when you have it, it's really helps push it along and getting these projects completed and funded, especially.
Niraj or Elena, any further comments? I know, Elena, you've gone into this somewhat already.
Yeah, like I said, if anybody on the call is thinking about it and wants to reach out to me personally and hear my take on the process and how it went, I'm more than happy to talk to anybody else. One thing I've been really grateful for being a manufacturer here in Cecil County is just the community of companies. I've been able to reach out to other business owners as well and ask them about their process and how they do things. And so I'm more than happy to have anybody reach me personally if you want to ask questions about how the whole thing went. And, Peter Nandini Stacy, Dr. Tung, everybody, thank you very much for this opportunity. We're really extremely grateful, and we can't wait to reinvest the money that we're saving in future upgrades. I'm already planning and budgeting, so looking forward to it.
Good. Thank you. Raj, I think I mispronounced your name earlier. Do you have anything else to add to this?
You nailed it. Yeah, you know, one theme that we haven't, I agree with everything that's been said. One theme that we haven't talked about, which I think could be interesting and a little thought-provoking for the group, is potentially to invest in vocational training for people to run energy efficiency programs or go as the go-between between these programs, between vendors, OEMs, and the end user, as well as for manufacturers like us having the skilled personnel to be in-house, to be on our teams, to be able to be maintenance technicians and or facilities managers for these types of technologies. So that it could be a compelling economic development opportunity, job creation opportunity to partner with universities and or vocational training programs to equip young and old alike graduates with the necessary skills to contribute to the what I'll call the energy efficiency economy.
Thank you very much. I just want to direct everyone's attention to the chat box now that's working. There's links to some of our programs. There's also some invitations from our staff to please contact us, and they're more than willing to walk you through the process. Unfortunately, right now, the program through RMI is only available in PEPCO and Delmarva. That's because it's a source of funding. Right now, we did have a BGE program which worked really well, but that program has ended because source funding. So we are available at MEA to help you walk through this process. And as I had mentioned earlier, one of the things that you know, you deal with as a company is, where do I even start? And an energy audit is one place to start, so you know what needs to be done, but that has a cost associated with it as well. So that's where we'd like to step in and try to help. That's where RMI and those areas can step in and help. And you know, it's daunting when you first start the process, but once you get the lingo and get going in your area, it becomes a lot easier for you to move forward, and you're not there by yourself. We're there to help you. We have email addresses. Elena just put her email address in the chat box. I'm sorry, but the chat box is tiny little print, and I've got old eyes, so I have to get close here. I'm just trying to see if I'm missing any questions.
I don't think so. I'm not seeing any.
Okay. We do have Mike Kelleher. Somebody mentioned he's on the line. So I don't know, Mike, do you want to give a word or two since you missed out at the beginning?
Thank you, Mary, and great to see you and everybody. I'll keep it brief. I just, you know, want to say that Maryland MEP is happy and proud to support this initiative and obviously all of RMI's initiatives. But we think the Champions Series is fantastic to raise the level of awareness for the manufacturing community and do exactly what you all did a great job of today. Tell the story of the manufacturers and why manufacturing is important. And I think that the conversation today around energy and savings and the environmental aspects are really critical to where Maryland can put a stake in the ground moving forward and start to raise the bar for what manufacturing is. So we're happy to be a partner. We're happy to sponsor the effort. And as always, Maryland MEP is got some resources and some funding and some services. If anyone's interested, please feel free to reach out. But great job all, and what fantastic stories, and congrats to our champions.
Thank you, Mike. It's good to see you again. Mike and I are Leadership Maryland graduates, so we spent a year together, about a year and a half ago. It doesn't seem that long, but good to see you again. So thank you all.
I'm sorry, this is Mike Galeazzo interrupting you again.
Oh, that's okay. That's fine. You're allowed to.
Before we end, I want to again thank you, but I also want to let the group understand that our program has been successful primarily because of the leadership of Peter Gourlay. Peter has been a remarkable leader and helping his team and the companies come together to make all these successes we're talking about today possible. And we all know, Peter, you've had a major personal challenge that you've overcome, but I got to tell you, we would not be here today celebrating all these successes if it wasn't for your type of leadership that's very focused on individuals, trustworthiness, and doing the right thing. So Peter Gourlay, former Marine, I salute you today.
My understanding is once a Marine, always a Marine, so he's still a Marine.
Right, I should have said that. Thank you, Mary. I was Air Force. My
son's Army, so we have, which is what I have over my shoulder here, Army Aviation, if anyone sees it. So it's all good, and thank you all for your service to our country. I'm going to turn it back to Stacy to close us out. This has been an awesome time, and I really appreciate the opportunity to do this. So back to Stacy.
Thank you. Just want to thank all of our panelists and our sponsors, promotional partners, everybody for being involved with this, making this happen. And to all of you that have tuned in, our next webinar will be, our next Champions webinar is in January, date to be determined, but look for that coming in within a week or so. And we'll be covering the topic of resiliency and some great success stories in resiliency in the manufacturing sector. I'll send an email this afternoon with the recording and all the links and things that you heard about today. So look for that coming this afternoon. Yeah.
Yep. Can I just say one thing just for a
Yeah.
second? So my doctors just came in as you guys were all talking, and they basically gave me a clean bill of health. I'm discharged, and the MRI that they did, they were worried that I had a condition called myocarditis. That's why I was in the hospital. They have no evidence that that's there. There's an enzyme called troponin that basically says your heart's under stress, and that was raised at such a level they submitted me to the hospital. But the good news is that it just was the heart surgery that was raising that troponin. So
Yay.
I'm good to go. I'm wheels up tomorrow. Be arriving back in Timonium tomorrow.
Awesome.
Yay, that's great news.
A great note to end on. So thank you, Peter. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
See y'all. Thank you.